Hey guys, it's Annabelle on Finance Friday, and this is another edition for the Free M's YouTube channel. Okay, so I just have to let you guys know what I've written down. Right, living with parent on private property with a police matter to close has led me to the National Domestic Abuse Helpline, Enfield Council Emergency Accommodation, North Enfield Food Banks, and an unclosed police matter. They did not turn up on Wednesday night. And they didn't call me to say there was a more serious incident that they needed to attend to. I had to call them twice. They said that someone from the community, was it community officers or whatever? And then they said, no, it's the Safer Neighbourhoods that need to call you for advice on what is likely to happen, what are the possible outcomes with regards to my safety and my mother's safety. So I don't really have much faith. The 101 did not make an arrangement for Safer Neighbourhoods team to call me. She gave me the telephone number. And I'm trying to stay in control of this budget, so I do not believe I can spend £5 on a mobile top-up calling them, so I've got to find a way to call them. So rather than staying up outside in the cold in front of CCTV as I did Wednesday before last from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, I have turned to a women's refuge for shelter whilst having an unclosed police matter that needs to be closed at my residential address, private property that my mum owns. So I have direct debits and standing orders coming out and deposits to make. So I'm gonna, after speaking to you guys about my journey to owning my own home, I'm gonna sort that out. I've already got one employer in mind that I want to become an employee of. So I need to ask when I get back to shelter, the support there, what are the rules on part-time work whilst I have an unclosed police matter at my mother's residential address that she owns, which is private property. God, some of the questions sounds like it's just journalists being nosy, trying to get some information, trying to get the story first, because maybe they think I'm charging money for this story. I'm going to make a business out of this fact, not story. I freaking hate that word. So now I'm starting to believe, well, if I choose to be a homeowner via a mortgage in London and a criminal gang such as a drug dealer decides that he wants to force his way into my house and put drugs in there, will the police be there? Will London Met Police be there? If I choose to own a home in London and I get intimidated by a criminal gang because I've called the police on illegal drugs in a pensioner's home, that is my mum, where's the support from the police when it comes to criminal gangs? Like, where is the support? So now I'm thinking, okay, so I definitely wanted to start the journey in Great Britain to get into a mortgage. So now I feel like maybe I just have to, you know, work towards employment, getting my debts paid off, boosting my credit and saving for a deposit for a home that isn't in London, depending on how tonight goes. I'm gonna obviously leave the details in the description part or underneath the video of what happened tonight with my third appointment that I requested for. Wires get crossed with 101. I actually went to Edmonton Police Station too to find out, and they said it's not on their records that any police officers come in to remove drugs. And they just told me to call 101 again. So I think 101 is just whack when it comes to police matters such as illegal drugs in your home. I have no intentions of sharing a home or whether rent or owning with somebody that sells drugs. So the scenario that comes into my head is criminal gang intimidation, threats that you may not be able to gather evidence for the police, because it seems like what the police wants is evidence. So yeah, I may have to own a home outside London with a police force that actually supports. So do I have to call 101 and ask for advice when they keep saying we're not the police, so we can't advise you? Who do I... So is it the Safer Neighbourhoods Police or whatever, Safer Neighbourhoods Department within the London Met? Do I have to call them to find out, well, what if this happens when I'm in my own home, whether rented, whether it's a council accommodation, whether it's private, or whether I own it? What are my rights as a British citizen or British national, whatever you want to call it? So it hasn't demotivated me for paying my debts off, getting a job and saving up. But it hasn't even demotivated me to move out. It's just made me wonder. It's just made me wonder, that's all. So, yeah, wow. Are there any other pensioners in London under the same threat by criminal gangs that sell drugs? And then all the conspiracy theories that the drug dealers are corrupt police officers. That's all that comes into my head. You've got to be a corrupt police officer not to attend to a pensioner's home when an occupant, her daughter, a relative, has told you the history of the person who brought the drugs into the home. And obviously, when domestic abuse and violence is involved with a relative, you need evidence. That's all the police seem to want, evidence. Without evidence, it's just your word, right? I wonder. I just wonder. I guess being in a women's refuge with regards to shelter on the way to a mortgage has just made me think so many things. Like, I'm only there because the police didn't do what I believed they would do the first time I called them on the 18th of January. And that's led me to a refuge. And I just feel defeated because I feel institutionalized. Excuse my pronunciations, but I'm just overwhelmed right now to focus on enunciating. Yeah. I feel institutionalized now. Enfield Council were willing to help me into private accommodation. I don't want a PO box for my banking and all my creditors. I don't want a PO box. So, and to be honest with you, I feel like just taking all my tin food that I got from the food bank and sitting outside in the cold in front of CCTV until the police deal with it. That's what I feel like doing. I don't want to be on housing benefit, feeling institutionalized in a women's refuge for shelter because the police didn't do what I believed they would do. And when it came to researching my rights with the British Library, I had trouble because obviously lockdown. And then getting a reading room ticket, you have to know exactly what part of the library you want to go to, and getting advice from the team, from the staff at the British Library of this is what I want to read on. What reading room do I need? Didn't get that advice. Then I had trouble logging in. It was a long time since I've been back to that library. So getting my reading up on the law with regards to what you're entitled to do because the 101s haven't got a clue. Several calls, they've stated they don't know. They're not the police. They're just call operators. It sounds like a lot of excuses, but it's fact. During the lockdown, I had trouble getting a reading room ticket. I told them exactly what I wanted to read up on, and I expected them to know where those law books were. I just didn't get that chance, so it's just like I focused on avoiding the violent opposition at my residential address that my mum owns. I feel like the questions were just nosy, just a whole load of nosiness. I feel like the questions were irrelevant to what the matter I was calling about, the subject matter. It just felt so irrelevant, and it's like, is that what people are going through? Feeling like some journalist is interviewing them for a story in a paper that probably nobody would read, or a TV show that nobody will watch. We're all just trying to hold on, aren't we? I guess so. I haven't really socialised much with people. Yes, I'm grateful for shelter. I'm grateful for food. I've been in the same clothes for the last 12 days. Very, very grateful. Like, I've secured my belongings, but I don't want to feel at home. I've been in a women's refuge before, and I felt at home. I felt safe, secure. I was sociable and motivated to get on with my life. I felt at home, and I don't want to feel like that again. I just don't want to feel like I'm at home. It's just a temporary measure. And then all the paranoia comes in. It's just some organisation with a whole lot of money paying a whole lot of people in need to perpetrate and violate against me and my family, through family. One good positive thing is in a women's refuge, I'm now in full control over my spending, so I shouldn't be in the same situation on universal credit without money. Yes, they want £22 every week for a service charge, and that just infuriates me. That they want a service charge off of me of £22 every week. That's a whole lot of money for a single woman without children. And the rent is a little over £200 a week. So there's no chance of getting in full-time employment and saving. £200 a week it costs to stay there once you're employed. And I don't want to commit a crime. And on minimum wage, we've already discussed after tax, it's going to be a little over 800 quid. A little under 900 quid every month. And then most of that will go on the rent in the women's refuge. So I find myself in a situation where, no, I am not going to be able to get into employment, full-time employment, whilst being in a refuge. I guess I could ask, what are the terms and conditions for a woman who decides to work, whether part-time or full-time? Can they do something about the rent every week? But the location of where the shelter isn't in my plans to live there. Yes, I'm grateful that I've got shelter, finally, after losing all my credit, ringing around shelters who didn't seem to have a women's refuge, and having to relay so much personal information about your life to a stranger, and then and sometimes they will just tell you, sorry, we don't have a refuge. What's your name, please? Why are you asking me for my name if you don't have a space? That after all the personal information I've had to give to the council, to the police, to women's charities, expecting a dutiful response. This life, eh? Seems like a lot of complaints, but like I said, when I upload this video later on tonight, I will for sure put the results of what happened. And now I've got to try and get onto Safer Neighbourhoods team to try and be some sort of steps ahead by saying, look, when you see what you see in the house, if it's still there, will you remove it, arrest him, or will you call him in for questioning? What will you do to keep that pensioner, who is a homeowner, safe? And the occupant, her daughter, safe? Because I really don't want to be in a women's refuge. I don't want to apply for council housing again. I feel like 10 years ago, the motivation I had for life, the determination I had for life, the belief in myself, I need to get that back. And I'm not going to do that if I'm institutionalized. I want my self-belief back. I want my self-confidence back. I want to be in control of my self-image, because this is not what I dreamt of. Like, this is not what I dreamt of. Like, look at my clothes. Look at my faded top. Look at my faded jeans. And look at this jacket that doesn't even belong to me. This hat was a gift. My trainers belong to my mum. This is not what I dream of when it comes to getting up and getting dressed and presenting yourself to the world and taking care of your responsibilities. Like, this isn't me. This is what I dream of in my life. Everything I have in my handbag, where I've secured my belongings, that is me with my hope and faith, like the same wants that I had for myself. Same. They are the same wants that I have for myself, and I've got to get there. I have got to get there again. And I don't feel like I'm going to get there in a women's refuge. I don't feel like I'm going to get there living with parents. I just don't feel like I'm going to get back to being in good mental health in a women's refuge. So I feel defeated. I'm not demotivated from getting a mortgage and owning my own home. I'm just like, well, what are my rights? What are my rights to staying safe in the neighbourhood? And 101 can't do that. Can't advise you on that. They can only transfer, but they can book the police to come out and see you. Will they come and see you or not? Will they call you to let you know there's a more serious incident, so we cannot come and see you? Get back to your safe location. This is now a danger location for you. You have reported domestic abuse and violence to the police, and you are getting help from a women's charity. So I fear for all the other women out there with children, without children, whether you're pregnant. What must they be going through? Hopefully this video will help people who are in the same situation and don't have any hope and faith in the London Met Police. So I'm going to make some deposits to my creditors. Go to the post office, get a postal order, and deal with these grown women affairs such as finances. Okay guys, I've rambled on a lot. I don't know what's gonna happen. My final thought is, do women like me have to own gun and bullets just to keep their homes safe from predators and criminals and drug dealers? Do we? I hope not. I hope there is a police officer out there. Bye guys.